Happy morning, my dear students. Today we are going to see a wonderful lesson, and from that lesson, you are going to learn so many things. And I need your 100% participation during the class. So please open your textbooks and open a notebook and hold a pen. And as you focus on reading, you can learn several things. For example, punctuation marks, you can understand where to put and how to put, and vocabulary, the new words which helps you to build your vocabulary, and also dialogue writing. And as you read, you can develop your speed of the reading, and that helps you for your reading comprehension. And narration method, for example, the author of this lesson is Ruskin Bond, but the narrator is the character from the same lesson. So you can see that narration method and the author's message through this lesson, what he's trying to say, that we can also learn. And if you observe the time and the place of this story, you can understand the culture and the relations of those days, and in our days you can compare. And also when we observe the characters, how are they dealing with each other, then you can understand the personalities of the people, and you can understanding others also. Also you can develop your thinking ability, and your decision making ability also improves. So many benefits are there when you focus on reading. So focus on your reading while you are listening the lesson, enjoy the lesson, and take notes of the new words you feel that I have to work on this. So the lesson name is The Woman on Platform 8, written by Ruskin Bond.
The Woman on Platform 8, written by Ruskin Bond.
If you see main characters of this lesson, Arun, 12 years old boy, who is the narrator of this lesson, and his so-called mother is a stranger woman, and his classmate name is Satish, and his mother is the main characters. While you are listening, please take note of unfamiliar words.
Section 1. It was my second year at boarding school, and I was sitting on platform number 8 at Ambala station waiting for the northern bound train. I think I was about 12 at the time. My parents considered me old enough to travel alone, and I had arrived by bus at Ambala early in the evening. Now there was a wait till midnight before my train arrived. Most of the time, I had been pacing up and down the platform, browsing at the bookstall, or feeding broken biscuits to stray dogs. Trains came and went, and the platform would be quiet for a while, and then, when a train arrived, it would be an inferno of heaving, shouting, agitated human bodies. As the carriage doors opened, a tide of people would sweep down upon the nervous little ticket collector at the gate, and every time this happened, I would be caught in the rush and swept outside the station. Now tired of this game and of ambling about the platform, I sat down on my suitcase and gazed dismally across the railway tracks. Trolleys rolled past me, and I was conscious of the cries of the various vendors, the men who sold curds and lemon, the sweetmeat seller, the newspaper boy, but I had lost interest in all that went on along the busy platform, and continued to stare across the railway tracks, feeling bored and a little lonely. "Are you all alone, my son?" asked a soft voice close behind me. I looked up and saw a woman standing near me. She was leaning over, and I saw a pale face and dark kind eyes. She wore no jewels and was dressed very simply in a white sari. "Yes, I'm going to school," I said, and stood up respectfully. She seemed poor, but there was a dignity about her that commanded respect. "I have been watching you for some time," she said. "Didn't your parents come to see you off?" "I don't live here," I said. "I had to change trains anyway. I can travel alone." "I am sure you can," she said, and I liked her for saying that, and I also liked her for the simplicity of her dress and for her deep soft voice and the serenity of her face. Tell me, what is your name? She asked. Arun, I said. And how long do you have to wait for your train? About an hour, I think. It comes at 12 o'clock. Then come with me and have something to eat. I was going to refuse out of shyness and suspicion, but she took me by the hand, and then I felt it would be silly to pull my hand away. She told a coolie to look after my suitcase, and then she led me away down the platform. Her hand was gentle, and she held mine neither too firmly nor too lightly. I looked up at her again. She was not young. And she was not old. She must have been over 30, but had she been 50, I think she would have looked much the same. She took me into the station dining room, ordered tea and samosas and jalebis, and at once I began to thaw and take a new interest in this kind woman. The strange encounter had little effect on my appetite. I was a hungry schoolboy, and I ate as much as I could in as polite a manner as possible. She took obvious pleasure in watching me eat, and I think it was the food that strengthened the bond between us and cemented our friendship, for under the influence of the tea and sweets I began to talk quite freely, and told her about my school, my friends, my likes and dislikes. She questioned me quietly from time to time, but preferred listening. She drew me out very well, and I had soon forgotten that we were strangers. But she did not ask me about my family or where I lived, and I did not ask her where she lived. I accepted her for what she had been to me, a quiet, kind and gentle woman who gave sweets to a lonely boy on a railway platform. After about half an hour we left the dining room and began walking back along the platform. An engine was shunting up and down beside platform number 8, and as it approached, a boy leaped off the platform and ran across the rails, taking a shortcut to the next platform. He was at a safe distance from the engine, and there was no danger unless he had fallen, but as he leapt across the rails, the woman clutched my arm. Her fingers dug into my flesh, and I winced with pain. I caught her fingers and looked up at her, and I saw a spasm of pain and fear and sadness pass across her face. She watched the boy as he climbed the other platform, and it was not until he had disappeared in the crowd that she relaxed her hold on my arm. She smiled at me reassuringly and took my hand again, but her fingers trembled against mine. He was all right, I said, feeling that it was she who needed reassurance. She smiled gratefully at me and pressed my hand. We walked together in silence until we reached the place where I had left my suitcase. One of my school fellows, Satish, a boy of about my age, had turned up with his mother. "Hello, Arun," he called. "The train's coming in late, as usual. Did you know we have a new headmaster this year?" We shook hands, and then he turned to his mother and said, "This is Arun, mother. He is one of my friends, and the best bowler in the class." "I'm glad to know that," said his mother, a large imposing woman who wore spectacles. She looked at the woman who led my hand and said, "And I suppose you're Arun's mother?" I opened my mouth to make some explanation, but before I could say anything the woman replied, "Yes, I am Arun's mother." I was unable to speak a word. I looked quickly up at the woman, but she did not appear to be at all embarrassed, and was smiling at Satish's mother. Satish's mother said, It's such a nuisance having to wait for the train right in the middle of the night. But one can't let the child wait here alone. Anything can happen to a boy at a big station like this. There are so many suspicious characters hanging about. These days one has to be very careful of strangers. Arun can travel alone though, said the woman beside me, and somehow I felt grateful to her for saying that. I had already forgiven her for lying, and besides, I had taken an instinctive dislike to Satish's mother. Well, be very careful, Arun, said Satish's mother looking sternly at me through her spectacles. Be very careful when your mother is not with you, and never talk to strangers. I looked from Satish's mother to the woman who had given me tea and sweets, and then back at Satish's mother. I like strangers, I said. Satish's mother definitely staggered a little, as obviously she was not used to being contradicted by small boys. There you are, you see. If you don't watch over them all the time, they'll walk straight into trouble. Always listen to what your mother tells you, she said, wagging a fat little finger at me. And never talk to strangers. I glared resentfully at her and moved closer to the woman who had befriended me. Satish was standing behind his mother, grinning at me and delighting in my clash with his mother. Apparently he was on my side. The station bell clanged, and the people who had till now been squatting resignedly on the platform began hustling about. Here it comes, shouted Satish, as the engine whistle shrieked and the front lights played over the rails. The train moved slowly into the station, the engine hissing and sending out waves of steam. As it came to a stop, Satish jumped on the footboard of a lighted compartment and shouted, "Come on, Arun, this one's empty." And I picked up my suitcase and made a dash for the open door. We placed ourselves at the open windows, and the two women stood outside on the platform, talking up to us. Satish's mother did most of the talking. "No, don't jump on and off moving trains, as you did just now," she said. "And don't stick your heads out of the windows, and don't eat any rubbish on the way." She allowed me to share the benefit of her advice, as she probably didn't think my mother a very capable person. She handed Satish a bag of fruit, a cricket bat, and a big box of chocolate, and told him to share the food with me. Then she stood back from the window to watch how my mother behaved. I was smarting under the patronizing tone of Satish's mother, who obviously thought mine a very poor family, and I did not intend giving the other woman away. I let her take my hand in hers, but I could think of nothing to say. I was conscious of Satish's mother staring at us with hard, beady eyes, and I found myself hating her with a firm, unreasoning hate. The guard walked up the platform, blowing his whistle for the train to leave. I looked straight into the eyes of the woman who held my hand, and she smiled in a gentle, understanding way. I leaned out of the window then, and put my lips to her cheek, and kissed her. The carriage jolted forward, and she drew her hand away. "Goodbye, mother," said Satish, as the train began to move slowly out of the station. Satish and his mother waved to each other. "Goodbye," I said to the other woman, *goodbye, mother. I didn't wave or shout, but sat still in front of the window, gazing at the woman on the platform. Satish's mother was talking to her, but she didn't appear to be listening. She was looking at me, as the train took me away. She stood there on the busy platform, a pale, sweet woman in white, and I watched her until she was lost in the milling crowd.
That's the end of the story. Now, what did you notice from this lesson? Take a couple of minutes and write down your observations from the lesson about the three different characters. Why did Arun change from the beginning to end when he reached? He said mother to that stranger woman. And how did the rich lady, Sati's mother, behaved? What do you think? Write down these three different characters. If you have to describe about Arun's character, how would you describe about him? And how Sati's mothers suggested him while traveling what he has to do, what he is supposed not to do. These are the points you write down and exchange with your classmates for a couple of minutes also. So 5 minutes, during 5 minutes you have to do all this activity. Have you taken note of vocabulary relevant, unfamiliar to you, those words which can build your vocabulary? Throughout the lesson there are more than 20 words are there which you can feel those are unfamiliar, then you can build your vocabulary with them. You will see some of the examples here, and the rest of the words you have to practice by using your dictionary. Now there are some sample questions and answers. You can see these kind of questions how to answer, and you can write down in your own understanding. It's not exactly same wording, it's not necessary. Based on the concept you have to practice writing. These are just for example only. Thank you.